What's a severance package, and should I always accept it? Our Patreon donors get to vote on what we write about, and in their infinite wisdom, they have selected the topic of severance packages. I wish that I could pepper this with lots of references to Severance the TV show, but I can't because I'm not watching it. I'm sorry, Severance stans. It's not personal. I just refuse to partake in any more mystery box shows until they've concluded and the conclusion is well received by its fans. That's for my own protection. The mystery box train only seems to run to two destinations: Cancellation City or the incorporated township of wasting my time. And I will no longer let myself scrounge for crumbs of satisfaction in a showrunner's AMA responses as part of their 10-year retrospective. Ben Stiller can call me when it's over and the last season netted an 8 average or better on IMDb.
When you need some dough, you don't know where to go in this patriarchal capitalist hellscape. Well, here's the sitch, we're gonna help you, sis, because bitches get riches. Bitches get riches. Bitches get riches. Bitches get riches. And so can you.
Let's hang the concept of severance packages on a classic good news, bad news framework. The bad news is you've been laid off. You know, dismissed, let go, made redundant, fired, out of a cannon, straight into the sun. No matter the euphemism, the result is the same. The kingdom has shut its gates to you, and your descendants will be cursed to toil in the wilderness, filling their bellies with dust. But the good news is you might have an extra paycheck or two coming your way. Around 25% of employers offer severance pay, which makes it neither common nor uncommon. It's a benefit that's typically reserved for white-collar employees or those who work specifically on the corporate side of major retailers and service providers. And if you think that sounds classist, good. It is. You've been paying attention. If you already know that your industry or field or role does not offer this perk, or if you are not employed right now, you may take this period as an open study hall. What is a severance package? Severance packages are bundles of money and benefits that make the experience of being laid off from a job less painful to the departing employees. A severance package might include additional weeks or months of paycheck without the expectation that you perform any actual work to get them, additional weeks or months of healthcare coverage under your existing employer-sponsored plan, an exit bonus in the form of a lump sum of money or stock options, which, what color is your parachute? Gold. Outplacement services like references, career coaching, job placement assistance, and other legal forms like non-disclosure, non-disparagement, or non-competition agreements. Generally, the size of your package, is determined by a combination of tenure, seniority, and company policy. 1 to 2 weeks of additional pay is normal. 3 to 4 is generous. Any more than that makes me question, what is your secret? Are you in a union? Were you in the C-suite? Wait, you're not one of those Americans working remotely for a European company, are you? God, I hope you enjoyed getting the entire month of August off every year for no reason. You lucky bastards. You make me sick! For the record, the largest severance package I have ever personally known someone to receive is 6 months of salary plus 3 months of health insurance continuation, and I can only assume that the recipient held the nuclear launch codes. Why do severance packages even exist, and how come only some people get them? You've probably heard that it is professionally courteous for employees to give 2 weeks' notice when they plan to leave their jobs. In theory, the company can use that time to start looking for someone else to fill that role. And if you're leaving on good terms, you could even cross-train your replacement, which would minimize the loss of what a company analyst would call institutional knowledge, which is one of the costs associated with high employee turnover. The counterpart of that courtesy is supposed to be the severance package. If a company stops employing you suddenly, it's professionally courteous for them to continue paying you for just a little bit. This gives you time to start looking for a new job. I believe that these professional courtesies arose out of a need to maintain good relationships. In previous generations, employers and employees were a lot more limited in who they could work for and with. So these courtesies reduced the social friction of quitting and firing. I also think that's why they're more common amongst the more gentlemanly classes of work, although that may be my recent binge of bad period dramas talking there. Today's economy is just so different. Everything is so global that every market feels bottomless. And that's why those courtesies have eroded significantly, especially on the business end. Companies can piss off suppliers and burn out employees because there's always more struggling small businesses and hungry people waiting to take their place. Why offer courtesies like severance pay or, God forbid, a pension when everyone you might do business with feels anonymous and replaceable? My personal hot take is that you should only give notice if your company gives severance. Generosity is a two-way street, guys, and they have been parking on our side for too goddamn long. How do I know if I'll get a severance package? All right, so first go back and read your employment contract because some companies detail severance packages in there. But for most, they view it as discretionary. They don't provide details up front in writing. In those cases, you're going to have to do some detective work. Go check Glassdoor reviews, ask a trusted mentor, or just become friendly with the office gossip, which, by the way, is something that I recommend to everyone. Just note that I did not say friends, just friendly. The office gossip is a powerful source of information, but you should always keep them at arm's length. They're too much like the Rose Bride, a human personification of a double-edged sword. Should I always accept a severance offer? If you get laid off and your employer offers you a severance package, you should probably accept whatever they offered, say thanks, and dip. If your severance package is guaranteed by a contract or your union or a law, its terms are already set. And if it's not guaranteed by any of those things, then it's at your employer's discretion to offer anything to you. So you might as well just accept it and begin the process of moving on with your life. There's only 2 cases in which I think you should think twice before accepting a severance offer, and I will outline them both. Case number 1, if you think you have a strong legal case for discrimination or wrongful termination. All right, I don't like to tell you this, but if you get to the point of being terminated from your job and you haven't already documented a pretty extensive amount of questionable behavior, your case probably isn't strong. That does not mean that you being older or a parent or a racial minority or LGBTQ did not unfairly factor into their decision, but you need evidence if you want to prove it. Technically, the burden of proof in such cases is on the employer to prove that they didn't discriminate and not on the employee to prove that they were discriminated against. This is one of the reasons that companies are so secretive and opaque about the decision-making that goes into laying people off. But still, it's just much easier to collect evidence during an experience and not afterward. If you think you're in this situation, stop reading this and go find real legal counsel, because the sooner you get representation, the better. We recommend the website for your state's Department of Labor and Employment as a good starting point. Case number 2, it's contingent on damaging your career prospects. Many companies offer severance only if you sign legal documents agreeing to certain concessions, which might not be in your best interest. The main one I want you to watch out for is a non-competition clause, which would limit your ability to continue to work in your current field. Now, non-competition agreements are very legally fuzzy. Some states have restrictions or even full bans on them. So do look yours up because it's also not intuitive. Traditionally, blue states like California ban non-competes outright, but so do traditionally red right-to-work states like North Dakota. Anecdotally, I've heard plenty of stories about people feeling pressured to sign documents that companies definitely know are not legally binding, and they seem to only function as an intimidation tactic against a departing employee who is blindsided by the fact that they don't have a job to go to tomorrow. For next steps, the same advice applies. Here, let me format it as a helpful nursery rhyme. Lawyer, lawyer, bad employer, how will you make your case? With evidence and documents and an attorney ace. I'm a poet.
Objection!
Do I have to decide right away? Many employers have decided that the very best way to fire an employee is by ambush. A meeting appears suddenly on your calendar, and that's it. Someone you probably never met tells you that it's over, and by the time you get back to your desk, you are already locked out of everything. You're probably going to get marched out of the building under guard. It is shocking and humiliating and dehumanizing. I know someone who had this experience at a company with 5 total people. He was 20% of the whole company and close personal friends with everyone else, yet he was still locked out and marched away like a dangerous lunatic. The standardization of this approach makes me think that it's not so much like a best practice, but maybe more of a requirement for business insurance or something. If you're in HR and you know more about this, please drop me a comment. I would love to understand how this has become seemingly so uniform and so mandatory. Anyway, in this dreadful meeting, you will be offered your severance package, and they will put a lot of pressure on you to sign it immediately. They are like QVC. They will imply that this offer is selling like hotcakes and will expire in 5, 4, 3. You do not have to capitulate to any high pressure tactics. No one can force you to put your signature on something against your will in this situation or any other. It's not just your right to read the contract thoroughly and reflect on what it is that you're signing and even seek legal counsel to review it. That is your responsibility. That's because many companies bundle these unappealing legal agreements with the extremely appealing free money. We talked about non-competition agreements, but there's also non-disclosure and non-disparagement agreements. Depending on which state you live in and the work that you do and the wording of the agreement, some are legally enforceable and some are not. They exist mainly to scare you into not causing trouble on your way out. But remember, they want you to sign this. They want you to sign it bad. You have more power in this situation than you may appreciate at first. How do I ask for more time to review the severance package? It's perfectly reasonable to ask for more time to review anything that you're asked to sign. Here is a simple script that you can follow. I'm not prepared to sign this today, as it would obviously be irresponsible to sign my name on a legal document that I haven't had adequate time to read and reflect upon. I appreciate that you would like this resolved quickly. I do too. Can I get back to you by Friday? If you've been given an initial deadline and you realize that you need more time, here's how you can ask for an extension. I appreciate your patience. I'd like to request an extension of 2 days to come to a final decision. They'll probably agree to that without being difficult, but if they're being fussy babies about it, throw in the phrase, I need time to secure the legal counsel I need to make an informed decision. That'll pop a pacifier in their mouths. Is it true the rules are different for older workers? Yep. Older Americans get more protection under the law. What can I say, folks? Our gerontocracy is a broken clock that's right twice a day. Baby boomers saw Death of a Salesman at a formative age and said, no ma'am, not me. If you are over the age of 40, you are protected by the Older Workers Benefit Protection Act of 1990, which is an amendment to the 1967 Age Discrimination in Employment Act. You know, the good old When these folks are let go individually, older workers automatically get 21 days to reflect upon any severance agreements. And when they're let go en masse in a big layoff, they get 45 days, and they also get 7 days to revoke anything that they signed if they change their minds about it. Must be nice. I don't know, it sounds kind of minimal and common sense to me, but what do I know? Be a real shame if all employees had that level of protection. Can I negotiate a severance package? If you're reading this blog, probably not. Your strongest bargaining position with an employer is usually when you are accepting a job offer to enter the company for the first time. Once your employer decides that they don't want you anymore, you don't really have a lot of social capital left to spend there. If you're very tenured or very high-level employee, sure, you can probably at least make a counteroffer, but for normal working schlubs, it's best to just get on with it. Personally, I would only try to counter a severance package if I had a very specific set of extenuating circumstances. For example, if I were pregnant or I were halfway through a series of chemotherapy treatments, I would respectfully counteroffer for longer healthcare coverage to give me potentially life-saving continuity of care. In cases like those, it doesn't hurt to ask. They might decide that being generous is wiser than creating a potentially damaging bit of gossip or news. What are the tax implications of accepting a severance package? I'm not accepting that package because of the implications.
Now, you've said that word implication a couple of times. What implication?
If the severance pay is an extension of your current pay, it'll be taxed the same as normal income, including tax withholdings. So it should look exactly like your normal paycheck, minus any benefits accounted for in the severance agreement, like no more retirement account contributions or life insurance premiums. If the pay is a bonus or lump sum, it'll be taxed at a flat rate. At time of writing, that's 22%. So if you get a lump sum, go ahead and just set a quarter of it aside to pay taxes. Some states take the taxes out automatically and others don't. Regardless, Uncle Sam does know you got it. He will be coming, so factor that into your post-firing budget. Can I still file for unemployment if I'm getting severance pay? I hate to be a broken record, but every state is different. There's a site that's sponsored by the Federal Department of Labor. It can help you learn about your state's rules and qualifications. Post that here. Typically, though, you can collect unemployment benefits, but only after your severance pay period has run out. Either way, you should still apply for unemployment insurance as soon as you're let go. The process of being approved can be lengthy, and there's a lot of flaming hoops and trapdoors to dodge. What's the best way to use the extra money? If you've gotten a severance payout, congratulations / I'm so sorry. Losing your job usually sucks, especially if it was unexpected. Hopefully in time, you will come to see this as a blessing in disguise because it will lead you to something a lot better. And we have been there. But in the grand scheme of things, there are many problems worse than having an unexpected extra paycheck. If you want a strategic, logical guide to advantageously spending a windfall, check out our article entitled The Financial Order of Operations. This is one of our foundational articles. It very clearly lays out the optimal order an average person can follow to build their net worth as quickly as possible. If your change in employment status has you feeling angry, upset, or blindsided, there's a season 3 podcast episode you should check out about inheritances. It's got a lot of good advice for people who are navigating grief and trying to make big investments at the same time. It'll give you a lot of ideas for ways to use that money, which can also help you process a sudden upheaval in your life. That's literally everything that I can think to teach you about severance packages. But here's a fun tidbit that I buried, like an outdoor cat in a sandbox. I have never actually gotten severance before because I have never actually been laid off myself. Okay, well, The campus karaoke bar fired me after 2 shifts for committing the grave sin of sitting on a stool while slicing limes for the bar, and they were not intellectually curious enough to learn the difference between pots and laziness. Also, Jess's longtime nannying gig during college declined to hire me after a trial shift because the 5-year-old with hiring and firing privileges found my The Little Mermaid role-playing skills to be wanting. Little Philistine wanted Melissa McCarthy. I gave her Divine, and she couldn't eat it. Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's my all-time career advice. Don't underestimate the importance of body language. But for big girl jobs, my philosophy has always been, you can't kill me, I quit. So today's advice is based purely on research and conversations with many friends who have experienced severance firsthand. If you have personal experience with accepting or rejecting or negotiating severance packages, please add your experience to the comments below. I would really love for our readers to be able to round out their knowledge by hearing about the direct experiences of other people. Thanks again to our Patreon donors for choosing today's topic. If you would like to vote on which topics we cover in the future, you can do that by joining our amazing Patreon community. By supporting our work, you allow us to talk honestly and vulgarly about whatever personal finance topics we want without any interference from sponsors or fears of being deplatformed or demonetized. The fine folks whose names appear in our credit roll believe in what we do. Their sponsorship is the reason you're hearing this today, and I cannot thank them enough. Okay, so real talk. Jess and I just kind of emptied out our Patreon funds to buy ourselves new computers. We have been using the exact same ones ever since we started this project in 2016. Our computers remembered the Obama administration, and that explains a lot about why they were struggling as hard as they were. I have had to record a short segment and then stop until the fan on the computer could spin enough to cool the hard drive down so that the fan would die down, and then it would be quiet again, and then I could record another session. It was all very Little House on the Prairie. We had a USB 2 butter churn. I am so appreciative to our patrons and my cat for enabling us to give ourselves a long overdue upgrade that lets us do these video essays a little bit more efficiently. That's all I have for you today. Hope you learned a lot. Bitches out. Nikki, I will turn you into a sweater that's so itchy I never wear it. Go away. You best. How do cats know when you need them to be quiet? Yes, Pumpernickel. My fist is right here, Pumpernickel. You can rub your face on it, or you can just walk in circles, meowing at me. What do you want? Your precious shower water? That's right, get out of there. Also, big shout out to my foster guinea pig for being quiet for 95% of that recording.